welcome everybody. We are having an ad hoc naming committee meeting. It is 5:36. We are in the Nashua North Boardroom, and it is Wednesday, June 8th. Present we have Ms. Johnson, Ms. Brown, Ms. Darling, Ms. Raymond, myself, and Mr. Sahu. Yes, Ms. Johnson?
Are you going to be voting on who's going to be the chair and vice chair of the committee?
We can if you want to. I wasn't planning on it.
Well, usually on committees, you kind of pick a chair and vice chair.
Okay, I nominate President Bishop as the chair of this committee.
Does it need to be voted on?
Yep.
So it needs a second?
I'll second.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to,
Who's on the committee?
I'm an
Me,
alternate.
Jess, Christina, you.
Okay, thank you. You can't make a motion, Ms. Johnson?
Okay, so any other nominees? Okay, so all those in favor of me being chair? Say aye.
Aye. Opposed? Great.
And on vice chair, any nominees?
I'll
Honestly,
nominate myself.
Okay, I'll second that.
great.
So all those in favor of Ms. Brown as vice chair, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, Ms. Brown's vice chair. Okay, so tonight we're talking about naming the new middle school. We have obviously had a lot of emails about this. Does anybody want to recommend a process, or do we just want to throw out a name and vote?
I'd like to let Mr. Sahu have a say, if he came here to have something to say, before he has to go to his award ceremony.
Okay.
I just want to make sure we don't get stuck in process, and then Mr. Sahu not get a chance to have the floor. So,
Can I? Thank you, Ms. Raymond. Just a few things. I did hear from Ms. Darling when we were speaking before we walked in that there was some emails sent giving a lot of great recommendations for the new middle school name, and with some having some historical significance. I know that the two current the three middle schools, their name is kind of based off of a little bit more geographical, like a street or some sort of landmark in the area. But I just think that naming, deciding the name for this school is a very important task, and it's gonna go beyond all of us for years to come. And I just want to make sure that this committee is careful in their choice for the name, just because it's the name of a new middle school that's going to be here for a long time. So I just want to say that. And additionally, I don't know if we're deciding the color tonight. I do know that it's a priority to get that color decided. But I went to Elm Street. I'm very proud to have said I was an Elm Street Eagle. And while I don't think that we should have the new middle school's mascot be an eagle, I think it should be something different. I am not opposed to the idea of potentially having the new middle school's color maybe being something like maroon, just to have a little bit of the red spectrum and pay a little bit of homage to Elm Street, so all the Elm Street alumni who are still in the Nashua community can still look at the new middle school and see something vaguely familiar to the middle school that they went to. But that was my 2 cents that I just wanted to give tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Raymond?
Thank you. I just want to bring everyone's attention to policy FF, which is our policy regarding naming school facilities. There are some very specific guidelines that we are to follow, that the facilities may be named to reflect a geographic location, to commemorate a historic event, or to recognize a deceased person. And then there are a number of criteria for how we should be deciding on names, as far as it should be someone who has national or state prominence, or someone who has contributed to Nashua, especially in the field of education, and that the committee under this policy is charged with gathering suggestions consistent with the guidelines above for naming the facility from members of the community, from elected officials, from school district personnel, and from students. And then we are to make a recommendation to the full Board of Education, who will then vote on the recommendation. So that's all. Just wanted to read that into the record.
Thank you.
Oh, I lied, that wasn't all.
What else is there?
I think, no, you're right, that's it, because Mr. Alderman Dowd came Monday night at our meeting and let us know what the JSSBC committee had done last Friday, and also the timeliness of finding the colors, and probably the name too, within the next month, so that we can get supplies ordered.
Yeah, at the JSSBC meeting, the last one, the architects and construction would like this by the end of the month so that they can properly order things. That was from Harvey and Harriman.
Great. So just to build off of what Sameh had said, I'm sorry, Mr. Sahu had said, we have gotten a large number of emails already to the Board of Ed email address. I don't know if that was the intention of the committee, was to have that be the email address, or to come up with something else. I do know that Ms. Gingras and Dr. McKinney had come to the last meeting of the JSSBC naming committee and had proposed sending out a survey to students regarding the color and the mascot, so that students could choose that part of it.
Students and teachers and the parents of those students, and they were aiming for the students that would be going into the new middle school. And because we have to do redistricting, it's not necessarily the Elm Street students, it could be anybody from the district. Okay. So it's pretty much all of the.
Point of order,
I think the second,
Madam Chair.
Hold on one second. So I'm just reiterating, you weren't at the meeting, so.
I think
she was aiming for the, hold on a second,
I think
the
the
elementary.
point of order is regarding the meeting.
Okay, what?
That meeting was not an official meeting, and therefore I think any matters that were discussed in that meeting would not be applicable this evening.
Point of order, Mr. Attorney Bolton has been very clear that it was an appropriately noticed meeting. It was a meeting of the JSSBC naming committee where other people were invited. It was noticed, it was on the city website, and it was a public meeting held in a public place. So to update this meeting of this committee about what that one did is perfectly appropriate. And the minutes are posted online so that anybody who wanted to read them could go and read them as well. I just thought it would be more convenient to share with the committee what's been done thus far, but I'll leave it in the chair's hands.
Well, I think what is interesting is when we're looking for student input, these are the students going into the school, not the kids that are already there, because if we leave it up to just Elm Street students, first off, they're not going to be there. And the kids who would only be going into Elm Street now, we're cutting off the two other areas of town that will be redistricted and could possibly be going to the school. So to send out that survey to, you know, the middle elementary school students for their input, as well as their parents and the teachers, and we were going to send it out to all of the teachers, all of the middle school teachers, because any one of them could be redistricted and put into the new middle school.
I was actually wondering if there's, like, I was thinking about how empowering it must be for somebody to, do the research and come up with the name. We had an email come in yesterday from a very empowered student who did a lot of research, and it kind of got me thinking, if we left this open to all students to be able to submit and explain, these are our, these are the rules that we have to go by, and let it be like an essay contest for the student. I mean, I just think it would be, we're potentially missing a opportunity to empower somebody.
I just wanted to add my last remarks before I head out. Just building up on what Ms. Darling said, I completely agree, and I understand why we're sending the survey out to that certain demographic. Totally makes sense, but I think additionally, it wouldn't hurt to maybe have some sort of like essay contest, or just leave it open to other students in the district, and we could just like, even if we may not consider it as high, their opinions in this matter as highly as whatever the survey results come up to be, it doesn't hurt to see. Maybe us, as you guys as members of the committee could be inspired, you never know what ideas are out there, but that's all for tonight.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you, Mr. Sahu. Can we just welcome Mr.
Oh, yes,
Rogers?
Mr. Rogers is here. Hi.
Hello, sorry for being late again.
That's okay.
Yeah, my mom, she comes home from work, already starts dinner right away, so thank you, Mom. Yeah.
That's fine. You have a lot going on during your day. You're allowed to be late. Ms. Brown?
So to circle back to the beginning, your first question that you asked, I would prefer to talk about how we're going to decide before we actually make any motions to decide. Unless there were any people from the audience that wanted to come up and say anything, I think our strategy should be how we're going to come to our decision. Since we are supposed to take a lot of community input, we're in a position where we are a little bit rushed on the color scheme because of building materials, but as far as the name, I don't feel like we are in so much of a rush, and so I think really taking the opportunity to bring as many teacher and student voices into the discussion as possible, it would be really wonderful opportunity.
So just to highlight, the agenda for tonight's meeting in regards to naming the middle school went out, when did it go out? Friday, so Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, so 5 days ago. The Board of Aldermen were notified, administrators, assistant principals, district office building staff, the mayor, the mayor's office, the teachers union, all the secretaries, the HIPPO, the Telegraph, and it looks like the union leader. So this has been noticed, and we have people showing up who obviously have something to say, and our email is on there. So I just want to point out that this hasn't been hidden. It was well noticed, and as many people who wanted to participate have had several days to do so. Just putting it out there. Ms. Johnson had her hand up first.
Thank you. When you build a building, you don't rush. You take a look at all aspects of the building because, you want that foundation to be right. If not, it falls. Same thing in education. Yes, we've had it out since Friday, so you can only really count Saturday because whatever time it went out on Friday for people to see this. I think we should have a little bit more time for the community. We rushed through with the superintendent search. I don't think we should rush through on this. If we have to come up with colors, we'll come up with colors. But there's no reason why you can't build in a contract that they're going to hold the price on certain things. That's what a contract and negotiations are all about. So the naming, that's not going to make a big difference. If you got to come up with colors, we can do that. But I think we need to take out time on this naming of this building and let more people have a chance to get in touch with us. We got wonderful from a class at Elm Street. I think these kids, it was so nice to read what they wrote, what they came up with. And I've counted everything. I got little check marks. But you know what? There's no reason that we have to rush through this. We seem to rush through everything, and when we rush through it, we have problems, and we got to go back and redo it again. And this isn't something that we, other community, should have to go back again in naming.
So what do you suggest for a time frame, amount of people to respond, and, closing this out? What do you think is an ample amount of time for people to email us?
By the end of the month. By the end of the month. School's going to be out. We have the summer, some part of the summer to work through this. But, parents right now, they're looking at their kids graduating Monday and Tuesday of next week. And it just went out on Friday. And so let's give people some time,
When is the next full board meeting? The 27th?
something like that.
Thank you for letting me interject that question.
We could realistically have an ad hoc naming committee before the 27th and be able to bring it to the full board. And that just cuts 2 days off. Well, I think it makes sense for us to meet the needs of the JSSBC committee, and it works within a time frame that we've already established and we know people are going to be here for.
See, last Friday, when you had the meeting, somehow I got left off that list as an alternate, because I would have been at that meeting to listen to everything. So now I'm a week late almost on listening, reading information here. With one of the emails, kind of shocked a little bit, but it seemed to comprise more of aldermen than board members here, and we're the ones who's in charge of this.
The emails weren't from board members,
I wasn't,
like us board members? I would expect us to speak our opinion here. I wouldn't expect us to
but I
email.
wasn't even on that email that went out last week as an alternate. I was left off. It's going to be, but it's not too good if I'm an alternate, because if somebody didn't show up and you didn't have a quorum, you couldn't have continued the meeting with them because you didn't have a quorum of this board, this ad hoc committee. So that's why I sent you a letter, and I sent a copy of it to Attorney Clark to get her opinion on this.
Ms. Darling?
Actually, I'm removing my question. I found the answer.
Mike?
Removing my question, I found the answer.
Ms. Brown?
And so you've heard my opinion. I think that if we're in a rush to pick the colors, that seems reasonable. I think it would be good to allow the voice of the community to be heard a little more. But if we are also on a timeline, and I would like to know you and Ms. Raymond's opinion on whether we should move forward with actually setting the name this evening. Because if so, I would like to throw out some options.
You had your hand up.
Thank you. I don't love the idea of tossing out names. Because FF has very specific requirements to who we ought to be, what names would meet the requirements of FF to be considered. It is what it is, and I think it's important to give people the opportunity to have their say. I do think it's important that we have a public comment period before a motion is made at the full board meeting, so that people can attend the full board meetings that are regularly scheduled. People tend to know when they are, before the full board chooses. Having said that, I'm looking at the information that's come out since it went on Facebook last week, or earlier this week, and since it was in the Patch and the Union Leader and all over the place. And we've gotten well over 30 emails from people, and they are, with the exception of the Elm Street class, which I did not read all of those today, they are highly skewed with in one direction. I think that that's something to take into consideration. What I would propose for tonight, frankly, is that I think that we ought to authorize Ms. Gingras to send out her survey to the students, faculty, and parents regarding mascot and colors. I think that falls within the purview of the athletics department to gather that information and then give it to us so that we can make a choice on that. I also want kids who may not have access to
Chromebooks, to have this
yes.
done before school ends.
Yeah, I would like them to have, I know there's only a week and a half left of school, but I don't want only the kids who have internet and Chromebooks at home to be able to take the survey. So I'd like to get that out as soon as possible. And I don't think the full board needs to vote on that. I think that's something that the committee can authorize. I'm not opposed to scheduling another meeting of this committee before our next board meeting to go over what comes back.
I also think with the mascot and the colors, that there's no policy that says that the board has any say over that. That's typically administration does it. So administration can do whatever they want in regards to mascot and colors. To pair it with a name makes sense because then you can see the whole picture.
But I don't want it to be voting. My concern.
I'm just saying, I think the color and the name is out of our hands. That's administration. Administration can send out the
mascot,
survey.
yeah.
So
Yeah, I just
it can
don't.
go out tomorrow as long as Dr. McKinney says send it out.
Okay, I wasn't
And
sure
they
if we
come
had
up,
to
they
do
can
that.
come up with their own mascot and their own colors. That's not up to us.
Oh, all right, well then I didn't realize that. I thought it was all together. Having said that, I just want to be very clear that this isn't a popularity contest, name-wise. Like, do you know what I mean? And I take a lesson from the UK, and I don't want us to end up with like Bodie Big Boatface middle school here in Nashua, because a whole bunch of people have decided to submit that name. That just doesn't seem like the most appropriate way to go about it. My suggestion is that we continue with where we're at. I happen to personally support naming it after Mr. McCarthy, who was instrumental and touched every single one of the buildings here in Nashua. But that's me personally. And I think we ought to bring that to the board. I just don't, I can see us getting lost in the weeds here and spending, 6 months on trying to pare through this. And the suggestion that we rush things when we spent over a year on the GPA question and we spent over a year and a half looking for a superintendent is surprising to me, because we tend to drag things out from meeting to meeting to meeting. So.
Ms. Brown?
Actually, no, I wanted to hear your opinion too before I ask my next question.
On what?
And what I asked about how you think we should go about going with this, which you heard about me. Oh, I apologize. I'd like to hear your opinion before we move on. I didn't mean to interrupt.
So I think we've all probably been contacted by the people who the name means the most to. I think that everybody in the community who has a stake in it has probably reached out to one of us, whether it's a Board of Ed email, or it's, us personally, or somehow made it up through the grapevine. I think that we have been elected to be people's voice. And like Heather said, it's not a popularity contest. It's a decision made by leadership, by the Board of Education. And I think how the recommendation that I would make would be based on what people have shared with me, just like you're going to vote based on what people have shared with you. So I think we represent the people anyway. If we're going to go on a popularity vote for everything, what's the point of having a Board of Education? It would just be open to a public vote every single time. But you obviously disagree with that, so what do you think we should do?
So I actually think that if we are planning, if you think that the colors and mascot are not in the purview of the board, then there is no rush in doing the name at all. Even this month, we could wait until September, let students, members of the community, teachers have the opportunity to write essays, we could choose to use some kind of method like an essay contest or a drawing contest, or not even a contest. We could just have the opportunity to hear from more people, because most of the emails that we got that actually came in on one side came in actually before this meeting was even announced. So I think that we need to take that into consideration. Did we really reach the scope of our audience to do our due diligence, to reach the community in the way we should have, to really, honestly, I think we should have reached directly to at least Elm Street Middle School teachers and faculty and staff, but in reality, probably all 3 middle schools and elementary schools, and I do not think that we did our due diligence in that. And so I guess I would like to slow down the process. If that would not happen, I will give you my secondary opinion. My first choice would be to name it after a location to keep it consistent with the other schools in the area. My second choice would be to follow the lead of some of these student emails, because I think that they are so passionate, and I think it gives so much community buy-in to have students name a school after people. We have, I guess the two main ones that we've gotten are references, and they're kind of different variations of names to, I'm sorry, here, let me, Newcomb and Campanella. I couldn't remember their first names, I'm sorry. Don Newcomb and Roy Campanella, who were baseball players here in the area, baseball players of color. And the other choice would be, we got another passionate email from a student, from a doctor, and I think it's pronounced Cyan, who's an astronaut who grew up here in Nashua. So I think those are, taking student input is the way we get true community buy-in, that it's not, and to tell these stories of people who have faced adversity, who have followed their passion, and now have gone on to be remembered for something wonderful they've accomplished in their life. I think that's a really great message to send to middle school students.
Ms. Darling?
I just kind of wanted to build off of that. Dr. Proctor wasn't just an astronaut. She was the first African-American female pilot in space. Huge, and I love the fact that she came from Nashua. I've been kind of rolling around my head because I can already tell like the name is going to be a thing. Why not consider naming the building after location, landmark, historical event, something like that, and then name the facilities within the school after prominent Nashua people? So like the Brian McCarthy Library, the Dr. Cyan Parker Cafeteria, something like that.
Ms. Johnson?
Thank you. I agree with both of them, because it keeps it clean. We've only have one school in this city that's named after anybody, and that's Dr. Crisp. And he, I believe, was a physician, if I'm not wrong. But if you have a library that's named after the Brian McCarthy Library, and then all of these other, we're keeping within the tone of what we have done with all the other school facilities. And, you know, I think these students did a great job. I really want to reach out more. The school isn't opening up for another over 2 years. September will be 2 years. So to get a name, it's really not rushing on it right now. And I think what Ms. Brown and what Ms. Darling said, I think it's really a good idea that we have different libraries. We can have different, the cafeteria, whatever we need to, different rooms named after prominent people that were in this community. And this way, we can see who these people were, the astronauts, the baseball players. You know, this is something that we don't talk about because nobody knows about it, because we don't have anything named after them. And so I think, you know, this is something to talk about, not rush about. And people say, well, we didn't rush. But it seems like we put things on the table and we have to kind of push it through rather than really talking about it. And this is something that once you name the school, you can't go back and say, we're going to unname it. You just can't do that. So I think it's something that we do not have to rush through. We can consider what Ms. Brown said and what Ms. Darling said, and I think it's excellent what they're saying. And I counted, there was 25 emails that we had for former Alderman Brian McCarthy, and 17, which there could have been more, to have different names in the school. I just kind of wrote them out while I was sitting in my car today, so there could have been some more quickly. So, I mean, I think it's coming to almost equal in the community, and I really think that we need to have some more input right now. So school doesn't open till 2024. You don't have to push it through. And I'd like to hear from our student representatives, maybe, when is your last day of school? When is your last
The
day on our
22nd.
board?
I'll be at the meeting on the 27th.
Okay, so he might be able to come back with some more information what our high school students think, because remember, a lot of them probably went through Elm Street. And they might have input and say, well, that was my old school, but this is going to be the new school where younger students are going to be. Maybe they have some suggestions, so I'd like to hear that. And that's what we said to the community. We're going to do it to the teachers, to the parents, to the students, and we were going to put it, not that we were going to put it out on Friday, and come Wednesday, we're going to make that decision on it. So that's just my opinion.
Then let's say that the last day of school is the 23rd, right? But when are the seniors done? You guys are done.
Yeah, the seniors finished Tuesday, technically.
Yeah, so you guys are already gone. And then the last couple days of school is makeup days, right, for finals, for the high schoolers?
Yeah.
Okay, and then the middle and the elementary school are done on the 23rd, the 22nd. So let's say, because we want the students to have buy-in, and we need to make sure that they have access to being able to electronically connect with us or call us or whatever. Let's say school and teacher input done by the 22nd, when they're all done with their access to Chromebooks.
One thing I would say on that is that if we're going to elicit feedback, which I don't.
Right, they have to meet,
have an objective.
they have to meet the qualifications.
They have to
of FF
meet
too.
FF, and some of the names may or may not meet FF. And so I don't want people to, I just think it's important that when we do this, we include FF in any information that is sent out, or at least the applicable lines of FF, so that people hopefully read it and then submit something in that. Because right now, with having just this open call on social media to have people email us, people kind of just email us, which is great. I'm not asking people not to. I just would hate to have people get their hopes up and not understand why a name might not meet the criteria established in our policy.
Do any of them meet the criteria of the policy so far?
Yeah, some do, some do not. They're asking for someone who is a deceased person who's contributed to Nashua, especially in the field of education. And if it's within a facility, there are more criteria than there were to have the whole facility, which is interesting, but not, like they need to have, it has to be an exceptional situation. They have to have 5 years elapsed from the date of completion of service to the district.
That's if they're alive.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they're alive. So, but it says for naming facilities, it says, or to recognize a deceased person.
So I think what it's saying is that for an area within a facility, it can be someone who's still alive, whereas.
Oh, as long as 5 years have elapsed, yep. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4 bullet points. So.
And what were they again?
5 years have elapsed from the date of completion.
No, for the name, the facility name.
The full, okay, naming a facility.
I think going in, I mean, we're going to sit here for weeks talking about a facility name, let alone naming every single indoor office
Right.
and room.
So it says,
Middle school is going to take us, 17 more elections.
it says, the Board of Education will endeavor to name facilities at least 9 months prior to the scheduled opening of the school or facility. I'm going to put a little asterisk there because of supply chain manufacturing and our ability to get metal, and how long of a lead time we need. Because I remember just for building supplies, they need a significantly longer, 2 to 3 times as long as normal lead time. So we'll have to follow up with Harvey. But the last JSSBC meeting at the end of May, they said they really wanted it by the end of this month. So we'll
they
have
had
to
been-
go back to them and ask.
And they had been asking for quite some time before that.
Want or need?
Need.
need? Like, if we were to get it in July 1st, we're not getting our school named.
Well, we wouldn't, I don't know, that's why I just said we have to go back. What they said was, there's a significant delay, and in order to get everything on the building, ready to go for the completed date of the building, they need it like yesterday, but the end of this month will work. Having said that, we were talking about bleachers, there's some like metal pieces that go on the outside. There are a number of components that need to be ordered for these, and so we didn't differentiate between the name on the building versus, the bleachers and the other things. So I don't know if there's a difference between all of those things. I didn't think to tease it out.
I don't blame you.
I just didn't, so apologies. I lost my place. Okay. At least 9 months, may be named to reflect a geographic location, to commemorate a historic event or concept, or to recognize a deceased person. If named after a person, the individual will be a person of national or state prominence, or someone who's contributed to Nashua, especially in the field of education. A plaque honoring the person will identify his or her contribution to education. So that's what it says, and I think that we should include that part in any communication that might go out from the committee asking for feedback, so that people don't have to go to our website and look up the policy themselves. It's right there. That's my only suggestion right now.
Ms. Brown?
I agree. I think that the policy is, that portion is excellent. The criteria are good to be included. Just to clarify, are we sending out the survey, or not we, the district is sending out the survey for colors and teams, or for the name of the school? Is that what is that?
Colors and mascot.
Colors and mascot, okay.
But I'm thinking, like, if it gets voted on and it's cherry wood and the colors that are picked are orange and black, that wouldn't
be fine.
look good.
Right.
So would you like to get feedback on do you think it would be beneficial to get feedback from the community on the names we currently have, or would you like to pitch a name this evening?
Personally, I really don't want to give the community the impression that they're voting on, here are the 3 names, pick your favorite, and we're going to go with that. Or like to give them that expectation, because what if they pick a name and a majority of the board feels it should be one of the other names? Like, that just sets us up again to have people upset and disappointed, and I think our community's had enough of that this year. So if we can not build that into how we work, that would be good.
Ms. Darling?
I agree with everything Ms. Raymond just said. I definitely don't want to see any more big arguments playing out. To me, like, it's not about having the community vote necessarily, as just having the opportunity to throw it out there. And I almost wonder if one of us could take the time to take those suggestions that we get in and compare it to FF. That way we're not bringing forward names that don't already match. I'd be happy to, if that is something you guys would like to sign me up for. And I also want to say, I went to Kentucky Valley Regional High School. We were the Conval Cougars, and we were blue and yellow. Most schools don't seem to match up to their colors. So I think that that's a little less of an issue, maybe.
I think it depends.
Ms. Johnson?
When we send out the survey for the colors, why don't we add the naming of the school in the survey? So it goes out all at once.
So I think we can remember from when we did hybrid remote return to school surveys, and the majority of people who got frustrated were the ones saying, why ask for our input if you're not going to take our vote? So if we go along that vein, where people feel like a survey is a vote, people are going to be mad at us either way. They're going to be mad at us that their vote didn't win.
Well, I think you can, well, it's going to be
I
the
think
same
it's
thing
okay
with the-
for us to be leadership about this and make decisions.
Instead of calling it a survey, can't we just call it a, if you have a name you'd like to nominate, submit it to this email by this date?
I think whenever anybody clicks something, they're going to think it's a vote, which is fine.
I mean,
I don't think so.
I think we can't micromanage the minds of our people.
Yeah, I also think just like this conversation alone can be enough to like let people know that it's not a vote.
I wish you saw our emails from October of 2019 or 2020, whatever.
I mean, we're going to get those, though, no matter how we do it. So I don't see-
Personally, I would separate the two, because I think that everyone has indicated that they are comfortable with the idea of the children in school having time to use their Chromebooks to look at mascots and colors, correct?
Yes.
And then I think that's one thing that we've kind of put to the side here. And then the second thing would be if this committee wants to send out a communication that has FF inviting people to respond, then it would be easier. Just the idea of combing through hundreds and hundreds of potential emails is something that we need to be prepared to work on. So if people have that time,
I don't currently work
Darling
during
has
the
her
day.
time?
I sit and I look at a cactus.
oh,
It's a very boring
Well,
day.
the thing is here, it's just, we're not asking people to vote on anything. We're just asking them for a name. If you were to name the school, what would you name it in the new middle school? And that's all we're asking. We're saying
why?
to them.
And why?
And why? How does it
And this is
qualify?
not, we're not asking you to vote, we just want your opinion. We're asking the community for their opinion, that's it. And some of the surveys that were sent out for remote, some of them, they weren't the best surveys out there, and I think it led people, if you're not leading people, and you're just asking for what you want, I don't think the community's going to get mad at us.
Well, let's put a time limit on it. So we'll send out, administration will send out the email about, or the survey to the kids and the students and the teachers, the kids, the teachers, and the parents about mascot and colors, and then we'll ask for an open-ended email in regards to input for name from anybody, and we'll close it out by the 27th.
But we have
That's 2 weeks.
But we have 28 months before the school's even going to open.
I'm
So
still,
I still don't understand what kind of materials. I can
I don't.
understand for the colors, things like that, because of certain rooms, but I don't understand what we're talking about for the materials for the name on the school. So I'd like to know about that prior to.
well, we don't have another JSSBC meeting until the 20,
But we do have the
Or?
JSSBC
I
chair
was
here who
gonna
could probably
ask-
speak to all
23rd?
of this.
oh, 23rd for the next JSSBC meeting. I know that for fairgrounds, the letters that are on the building and the Penachuk name are made out of metal, and they have to be ordered in advance because of issues we have with steel manufacturing and other, I don't know, I'm saying steel, but it might not be steel, I don't know what it is. But there are delays in ordering anything made of metal right now. That's why we had to get a lot of our building materials at the JSSBC. We had to authorize purchasing them months ago with the hope that they'll come in time for when the building has gotten to that point. So again, that's my only concern. I know that the fairgrounds name was delayed. I think Penachuk is on time right now because we knew from fairgrounds about the delay and we ordered it vastly in advance. So, but the new middle school, because we don't have a name yet, they haven't been able to put in the order.
Quick question. Did we say that we were sending the survey to all students, like of all the schools, or just certain schools?
I think all of the 3rd and 4th graders, who would be the first ones to go into the new middle school.
Wouldn't it make more sense to ask everybody, I mean, like, we had that one recommendation from a student who definitely is not in 3rd or 4th grade, and if they do the research and the time, shouldn't that be honored?
Well, that was for the name, this is for the colors.
Oh,
The
no, I
survey's
was
for the
talking about
colors.
names specifically.
And what we based that decision on was Ms. Gingras, who was here during the naming, the colors, the whatever, for the new high school, and what worked well then, what didn't work, what can be tweaked, and then applying it to this situation. So we do have people who can give historical evidence about what has worked. And she was there and said that when we renamed the new high school, the middle schoolers who were going to be the first freshmen were given the option of participating in figuring out what the color scheme and the names were going to be.
No, I absolutely trust 3rd and 4th graders to come up with awesome colors. That's easy.
Well, I think what we had done was we had picked a set for them, and then they just picked, so it was either what, orange, black and white, red, white and blue.
Maroon, green, and yellow, I
I think
was
so.
one.
But it was 3, and then with a box that says other, so if you wanted to submit something else. But we had specifically talked about what other colors were in Nashua, what were the area colors of the, the closely located to us high schools, middle schools. And we really kind of had this narrow box of colors that we could choose from, and that's how we came up with those 3 choices. And then we send out those 3 choices to everybody with the option of putting in other, and then go from there.
So, but I think we've settled that, right? Does anyone have objections to having Lisa do the survey that she created? I'm sorry, Mrs. Gingras.
I don't have objections. I had a question, actually. Are you limiting their mascot and color choices, or are you pairing them up? If they choose specific colors, do they have to have a specific mascot? Or can they have, you can pick whatever this is, and you can have,
No, it was paired,
you can keep the Eagles for the mascot and change the colors to,
no, it was paired with
White.
a mascot and colors. Can we invite, we said that we wanted to invite Alderman Dowd. Alderman Dowd, come on, you were actually, when we voted on this committee, we said that you were invited into this, so come on down and grab a microphone. We have our historical evidence right here.
Relative to the reason for the colors and the mascot is it's not just we pick them and bingo, it's a done deal. The first thing that has to happen is the architect has to prepare drawings with all of the colors on them before the construction manager, Harvey, can even go out and do ordering. If you've looked at the Fairgrounds Middle School, you'll notice that the centers of the foul lines they're colored green. Center of the floor is green with the name. And all of the bleachers and the padding on the walls is green. It's the same way in Pennachuck. We're doing the work this summer, and it will be blue. Same things. So to order that material, the architect has to design the drawings. That could take a couple of months at least, because they don't just put out drawings overnight. Then Harvey has to do the ordering, get the bids in, has to go to the Joint Special School Building Committee, and then the material has to be ordered. And we've been finding the things that we order take a long time. Took a long time to get Pennachuck stuff in. The material that goes on the outside of the wings at Pennachuck were 4 months late after we ordered them. We've been able to work around things for Pennachuck, but we're trying to avoid that for the new school. Relative to the name, one of the things is the signs. We can't just, at the last minute, design the sign. It has to be, the drawings have to be done, the drawings have to be approved, the colors of the signs and the lighting and all that have to be approved. The ordering process takes time. And so the construction manager and the architect are very nervous about not being late with this stuff. Especially now that we've got the wetlands permits from the state and the Army Corps of Engineers. If you've been down there, they're cutting down the trees right now for the fields. I don't really want to get into the naming unless you want me to, but
Just hold on a sec.
The names, you can't just pick it the day before school and expect to open the school. It's going to be months before that we have to do that.
Right, I would almost imagine, once we get to that point, we'll be 9 months away, which is policy-wise.
Right, but I think
And then
that,
ordering all of the stuff and having it installed and brought in.
Right,
It's going to take that full 9 months to get here and get put in.
I think double based on what we're
Yeah.
hearing from the JSSBC over the last 6 months. I would say at least 18 months, if not longer, to order some of this stuff as far as lead time goes.
And to be fair, Alderman Dodd has been asking me to get this together since about January, and we've been a little bit busy with all of the other things that we've had to do as the Board of E. So I've put this off until we've had some time that we can meet. So this isn't coming up last week. This has been me saying our board isn't ready to address this yet.
Yeah, just a couple other points. I firmly agree with going out to the students and asking them about the colors, because they're the ones that are going to be wearing them. And I think if you have that all done by the end of June, I think we're still in good timing. But as far as the colors and the mascot, I think what they did on the high schools is the way to go. So we have no problems with that, and we just are getting into a very critical timing, so we can't wait too long. But if it's by the end of June, first week of July, should be fine if we don't get significant delays. I don't know if you've been down to the new site, but the foundations on the first two wings are up. Steel goes up in July. This thing is moving along quickly. It's ahead of schedule, which is good if you want to open the school in September of '24. The main part of the school development is once we have the frame up and the walls up, it's the interior work, the HVAC, all of the electrical work, a lot of work inside the school. So, if you put off, recommendation from this committee to get more input, I think you're going to get a lot more input on the naming. And I think that you should get a significant amount of input from the people of Nashua, because we're spending $77 million on this school. And the taxpayers ought to have a say in what that is. And fortunately, we were able to not have to pay for the land because Mr. McCarthy put that land aside 25 years ago for a school. So if you have any questions.
When did
Sorry.
when did you guys start talking about doing the new middle school? Some of the emails that we've gotten have been, a performing arts center and a new middle school? When did this all start? And I was like, I think that's been going,
This
the middle
project-
school's been going on for years.
5 years.
5 years. So 5 years, the city has been working on this.
And we had multiple engineering determinations, in fact, it's about this thick, on why Elm Street couldn't be used.
Yeah.
And so,
As a former Elm Street Eagle, I'm fine retiring Elm Street as a school. We're ready for a new one. It's a
like I
bit old.
said, I have no problem with, the kids having an input on picking out the colors, the mascot, and all of that. I think when it comes to the naming, that the people that are picking up that $77 million tag ought to have some input.
Ms. Brown? And then Ms. Johnson?
So just to kind of get us back on track, we are going to be sending out the survey regarding the mascot and the color choices. My question is, are they two separate brackets? Is it mascots and colors in two
No,
separate
they were
lines?
grouped together.
So my recommendation, if, again, if it's in the purview of the whoever, Lisa, I think that those should be two separate columns, because I think there are people that may not like a specific, I think your choices for colors are going to be different than your choices for mascot choices, would be my prediction, though I could be wrong. And then I also do think that there should be an open line for both mascots and colors, because maybe someone is passionate about one versus the other. And I would like to know how do we determine Are we limiting those choices, or is this survey open-ended for mascot choices? Are we just saying, what would you like as your mascot, or are we saying, would you like this mascot? Does that make sense? 1, 2, or A, B, C, or is it multiple choice?
I think Ms. Gingras had made up the survey.
Mock-up one, yeah.
It was a multiple choice with an other and a line that people could add.
Okay. I don't know, actually, Armani, do you have something to say about this?
Just a question. Is the survey she made, like for now, or was this the old one from the high schools?
No, this was for now.
Okay.
I have a clarification question for Alderman Dowd, if that's okay. So has the architect drawn pictures yet? Have they given us any building plans?
Building plans, the building's almost a quarter
So-
built.
I was going to say, I feel like if it's going to take them that long to put it in color, they need to go back to my old high school where the program that we had to put things in color took us 1 class.
That's-
I think somebody might be taking advantage of you,
No,
and that
it's
worries me.
It's not the way it works. When you're spending taxpayers' money, you have to do it in accordance with we're not talking about PowerPoint drawings, we're talking about architectural drawings with
I
specifications.
understand, I took
and all that.
architecture 1, 2, and 3 in
So-
my high school.
So there's a full set of drawings, for instance, on Penachuk's gymnasium, which they're working on right now as we speak, that indicates where everything is, the lines and the colors, and they have to work with the construction manager on the proper material. Now, fortunately, it's a little easier because we've done fairgrounds in Penachuk the same way. So, and these aren't the only drawings they're working on. There's a significant amount of drawings, it's like,
I guess my worry, like the thing that I was getting stuck on was the idea of that had to do with the timeline that we came up with, the name and the colors. But every time I've ever had to do an architecture plan, you choose color A, color B, color C, you name the colors after. It's easier to make the plans in black and white and grays.
again, the architect has to put the design on formal drawings to get approved.
Yes.
Then the construction manager takes those and goes out to companies to bid on doing the work. Those all come in, they make a selection on the lowest qualified bidder. They have to bring it to the Joint Special School Building Committee. They approve the expenditure, and then they have to get the person under contract to do that and plan out when the work's going to be done. Now, the problem we have with the economy today is the lead time on some of these things is excessive.
And I completely agree with that. Absolutely. Anyone who's an Instacart shopper knows that half of our items aren't even in the stores right now. I literally was just curious about the plans, because when you said they have to draw up the plans, I had a mini heart attack thinking, oh my goodness, how is this school being built without all the plans done? But
So,
Thank you.
And then, you'd hate to get to the opening of the school. You couldn't actually open the school, because unless the school is entirely done, we'll never get a certificate of occupancy. So you don't want the gym holding up the entire school.
it's a good thing
Same thing
multiple
with the-
people can
same
be
thing with
working
the
at once,
signs.
right?
The signs have to be designed, drawings have to be done, and go through all the approval processes, and including going through the joint special. And
I just hope they're not charging you by hour. Because they're quoting you way too much time.
they're under contract. It's not by the hour.
I just
Yeah, and I think we need to remember that the request for this information came from, the construction company and the architect, so they would like to get the work done as fast as they can. This isn't just Alderman Dowd throwing a
Oh,
dart
no, and I mean,
at a calendar.
like I said, I 100% agree that this is a time issue and that materials take forever to come in right now, and I am not debating any of that. I was just really worried about the plans.
If you wanted to go through on the city website, you can see everything. You can see all the architect's drawings, et cetera. There's a link from our school websites as well.
It's in our, when we get our weekly agenda packets and the JSBBC, whatever it's called, is sent out. All of the information that we see in the meetings is in those emails as well that we all get.
So there's, but you can go on the internet, there's like a Google Dropbox thing, and there's a link, and you can see all the plans for all 3 schools, including the new middle school and Franklin Street as well. So anything you want to see is there.
It's like a little Sims game.
So it's very interesting.
Yeah, the big
need to see the
concern is how
evolution.
long it took us to get the Penachuk items in, and they're not all in yet.
Yeah, right.
I just want to know, are we going to be opening this up for public comment tonight for the people who have come here, if they want to speak? I know that I'm leaving in about 5 minutes tonight. I have another meeting I have to go to tonight. But I just want to make sure where people came from the community, that they have a chance to
Well, I think the motion that's about to be on the table is getting community input. I mean, we can definitely open up for public comment, but if they're here to discuss the naming, we're going to make a motion to ask for them to be sending in information, so their opinions will be heard. So
Well, wait,
we have to make a motion for public comment.
wait 1 second.
I moved to hold public comment.
I'll second.
Oh, I can't do that, sorry.
I'll second
To hold it or to have it?
to have it.
To have it.
Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Okay. Mr. Pearson? State your name and address for the record, please.
28 Massachusetts Drive, Nashua, New Hampshire. The first, John Michael Pearson, you said it already, so I thought. The colors of North have changed numerous times. They went from a light blue to now a dark and white blue. I mean, the colors can change all the time. The uniforms, that's changed. The logo just changed again on Center Court just the other day. This summer, they changed the logos. No one at Elm Street knows anything about this meeting. The only reason I know is because a nice young student that does track told me all about it and told me about the name when we had the track meet freezing cold last week.
Okay.
That's the only reason I know anything about this, and the naming and any of this stuff, really, is with students talking about it when we were in Salem freezing. None of the teachers know. The kids we were going on the ballpark today anyways, and we went on that tour anyways. That's why those names had come up. They were watching the video on those players. I think a field named after them would be great at the new school. I think that would be a great compromise. I just think that the public doesn't know. I mean, no one at our school knows. There's 100 teachers, and I don't think I'm the only one that has a clue. And that's because I had that conversation with that student.
Well, I mean, I think that's fair, given that this is our first meeting of this committee, so these things happen.
Yeah, that's all. So I think giving us another 2 weeks or so, I think, would be fair to the staff. There's some teachers that work longer than me there. I know they want certain things certain ways. I know based on the union, most of the teachers at Elm will get to choose to go to Elm. It's just done that way if they're there. It's not going to be Penachuk, and Fairgrounds teachers aren't going to go there unless they're miserable and they rank high. And that's probably not going to happen because they like their schools. So I think it's mostly going to be Elm staff. And I think the whole 3rd and 4th grade is good, but I don't think the students that like Charlotte Ave, Amherst Street, they're probably going to still go to Penachuk. I wouldn't think we'd move them away from that. I would hope not, because that's going to be, busing is going to be a disaster then. But yeah, I mean, I don't mind them having input. I just think the sending schools to Elm right now, the 7 sending schools, that should be the ones that you really should focus on in this survey, because they're the ones that are going to be there. The 7, and 4 of them are going to go there based on the math. There's 12 schools. It's going to be 4, 4, and 4, hopefully, if that plan ever goes through. But that committee doesn't meet either, so thank you.
Can I ask?
Thank you.
Can I ask Mr. Pearson a question?
Yes.
Mr. Pearson, do you have an opinion on the name, or would you like to send out your information later?
I don't really. I mean, I know what the name I want based on the history, but I do think the students should have an input. I do think the school's going to be here 70 years, hopefully. I don't think it necessarily should be something that the older generation has an input on. It should be the younger generation. I mean, and I think that's the most important thing. I mean, kids have suffered enough. The schools right now aren't the happiest place. I think to build community back, I think giving these kids a choice is going to be key, because these kids, Elm's rough right now, let alone the other schools. I think that's going to be important. The school's going to be here for a long time. The first graders, the second graders, the third graders. I think the structure of what you're going to send out is perfect with the FF included. And even the mascots and the names, I think that's having a choice is good. Like you said, we don't want to be something from UK, some weird name, that Ms. Raymond said. But I just think that the kids should have a lot of, they've lost a lot, and I think they need to have some community built back. And especially the kids that are going to lose their city school. I mean, that's the neighborhoods that walk to Elm Street now, they're losing their city school. That's going to be devastating. And I think these kids need something, it's going to be out west, but they're going to be going there. There's going to be at least 3 neighborhoods from downtown going there. I don't know which ones yet, but they're going to be going there. And they need an important, it's not just an out west school. It's not a main Dunstable area school. It's going to be a whole city school. And I think it needs to be more than just main Dunstable area people deciding for the city. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Raymond?
Oh, it looks like we have one more public comment, and then
Is it one or both of you? Just one? Okay.
and then I'd like to make a motion.
Okay. Make sure you say, are you a student?
Yes.
Then just say your name.
Yeah, my name's Julie Sage. I'm going to send in the Dr. Proctor.
Oh,
Thank you. We all loved it.
Yeah,
Oh, your mic is on.
Can you press the button?
yes. There we go. Okay.
Thank you.
So just repeat your name for the.
So, yeah, my name is Julie Sage. So I just kind of wanted to come up and give a bit more details than I put in my email. I know she's not deceased, but what she's all done is historical. So not only was she the first African-American female pilot in space, she was part of the very first analog space mission. She was part of the first all-female analog space mission. So she's done a whole bunch of firsts. She did grow up in Nashua. She actually grew up near where I lived. She grew up near the airport. I have listed in there what schools she kind of went to. She actually went to Elm Street, and then she went to Spring Street before her family moved. And yeah, it's just like she is a very inspiring person, because she's done so much, and she did come from here, and I actually talked to her a lot. So like one thing I did say in there too is that I could actually have her come here too. And actually, right now, she's at like a thing for Time of like the top 100, like a conference of like top 100 people in the world kind of thing. And so yeah, she's done a lot. She's done a lot with education, which I also have listed in the email. I think that the idea of like naming things in the building was definitely interesting. Like, for instance, of naming the library after her, or even the cafeteria, because she's done a lot with actually studying how to do food in space. So it would kind of be funny, and then like a space mural or something really cool. But yeah, and it's just like I really want her to be considered. Because she is like super inspiring. She's inspired so many kids. She's a woman of color. I mean, there's not a lot of representation around here for that. That's actually been something that I have tried to work on a lot in school. At one point when I was back in like freshman year, I was trying to work with someone on stuff. I do a lot of other activism stuff. And yet there's issues around here. This year has been especially bad at North. I mean, it has been crazy, honestly, of different issues going on. And so I think it'd be really cool to have like someone who's done, like people who have done so much that are of different different diversity things to try to, because we're a multicultural city. I mean, I remember there being a number of saying that we have 64 different languages. in our school system. Like, that is one of the biggest I've ever heard. But yeah, so it's like, I want her name to be considered. Another option possibly that we thought of while we were coming here was naming the school Inspiration. Because then if you have like a bunch of the facilities named after people, then it's like people inspiring the kids and things like that. And I know that Elm Street had a lot of issues with things too. And Inspiration, it would be a historical event. For context, this is because of Dr. Proctor, but the mission that she went on, which not only had her, but also the first person with a prosthetic to go into space, who was the medical officer, was called Inspiration 4. Because also another first too with that was the first all commercial mission or something like that in space too. Like, there's so many firsts going on there. But yeah, and so it's like, also, I don't know if hopefully it was seen in the email, I also sent mascot and color ideas.
Yes, I love that.
In there. Yeah, I drew all those yesterday. I drew all of those in one day. But yeah, so basically I just wanted to come up here to just give a little bit more context and how, like, she does actually fit into the naming system, because I didn't know that there was those naming rules. I was worried about that. But she would fit into the historical context. And like I said, I do like the idea of possibly naming the whole school something else. Like, I understand that, but at least like some of like the major facilities, because like the gym or the fields for sports people, have her for like in the education kind of thing, because she's done a bunch of education as well. Things like that. I think that would be kind of cool. So I think that's all. Yeah.
Are you going to be a senior next year?
I'm
Or
senior
a
this
junior?
year. I am
I was going to say, you
graduating.
should run for our next BOE rep. But you can't.
Can I just say
I
thank
tried
you?
for it though. I did try for it.
Miss Sage, I just want to say thank you so much for coming out tonight, because like I have been staring at your email since yesterday when you sent it, and it like completely changed where I was going with naming too. So thank you for taking the time.
She's a really cool person. Like, that was like, alone, like a lot of it was research, but most of it was also just knowing her. Because I've met her in person and talked to her, and she's like the nicest person. So
I mean, honestly, it's kids like you that inspire me, because I did not have that energy and drive that you have. Keep it up.
thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Ms. Brown?
That was awesome. Thank you. You're sending me, I'm just smiling so much right now. So this is exactly why I wanted to hear more from students. I was sitting at home reading these emails we got earlier today from one of the teachers' classes at Elm Street, and I was just smiling, because most of them were some kind of variation of Roy Don or Don Roy, or one was New Hamp Camp, like just great names. And their pitches for them said things like, it rolls off the tongue and it's catchy, which is great, and the concept of, but they all focused on the fact that they're inspiring stories. And I honestly think that's an amazing idea. It's an inspired idea. I think that hearing from that, having some discussion over here earlier in the evening, and even from one of the teachers, I do still think we need more community feedback. But I'm wondering if we could make a motion tonight to move things forward and actually make a compromise, because we know there's lots of opposing opinions in the city, to name the school something, either location or inspiration or something like that base. We don't have to define it now, something neutral, but agree to name the spaces after individuals. I think it would be a good way to individuals who have done something inspiring for the town of Nashua. I think it would be a really great way to bridge some gaps, some divides that have been happening. If we go with something political, you alienate half the people. If you go with an athlete, the musicians might be upset. There's always somebody, but if we kind of share honoring a whole bunch of different people, we can inspire more kids in more places who need more representation. Would that be something the committee would consider.
So I think, go ahead.
I have to think on it. I'm not prepared to say yes or no right now. But I do think that we had gotten to a point of consensus on the committee about wanting more input. So I was going to make a motion, and I'll just make it. So I move to send a communication from the Board of Education to the community requesting input on names for the new middle school. The information from policy FF should be included in the communication, and the input to the board should be submitted by June 24th, 2022.
I'll second that.
And in the meantime, Ms. Brown, I want to think more on your thought.
I'm sorry, can you read that again, just so I can hear it?
Yep. Motion to send a communication from the Board of Education to the community requesting input on names for the new middle schools. School, only one school. Information from policy FF to be included in the communication. The input to be submitted by June 24th, 2022.
Mr. Rogers?
Could we have the ad hoc naming committee meet again before the meeting on the 27th? Okay. Like after the 24th, you said?
Yeah, I just picked two Friday, like the Friday that school's
Yeah.
out. But maybe I should pick a different day than that.
Well, I mean,
The kids
Could
are going to
realistically-
be checked out by the 20th or 21st. You probably could,
Like the 22nd, which is the last day of school.
Yeah.
do you think, so? Are kids really going to submit anything after that? Will they actually submit anything after the school's out?
So let me just friendly amendment, change the input by June 22nd, which is the last day of school.
and then we could schedule a meeting for the 23rd or the 24th to review.
Yeah, the
And then
20
have something to present to the full board for the 27th.
Because the 23rd is the joint special at
So we could
7,
before
so we
that.
could, is this room booked already for 6?
6 to 7.
We can meet at 5. Just talking about us, we could meet at 5.
I could try. Okay. Yeah, we could make that work, I think.
If you're going to have public input, are you going to have people hard to get here at 5 o'clock?
No, I think we're requesting email communication, so there won't, if people have something to say, they can email it. And then we can put a packet together and we can post it. That can be part of our agenda.
I don't know that if
Part
we,
of our agenda for the full board meeting.
right, if we get it by Wednesday, the 22nd, that can go
In the full board
in
agenda.
the full board meeting packet on Friday.
And then we can make the recommendation from here based on the community input from the emails. And then if people missed the deadline and feel strongly that they need to have their opinion shared at the podium, it'll be on the agenda for the full board meeting. They can come in, they can speak to it at first public comment.
I'm thinking I should say the 17th instead of the 22nd. And then we could meet earlier.
Paula felt that that wasn't enough time.
I know, but
I think
I think the
I think
22nd 's
this
fine.
close. I think this close to the end of the school year. I think you're going to get people that are really passionate. They're going to give you their information on a relatively short order. Maybe 2 weeks, unless they're going to write essays about it. I don't know. Is 2 weeks too much or enough? I feel like I
10
kind of
days.
I kind of want Armani
Compromise.
to wait.
Yeah, I know,
I feel like he's going to be the
personally,
expert on this.
At the end of the year, like, it's really busy. So I think the more time would be better, like, especially with finals and everything.
Okay, then I go with his opinion.
okay, so I'll stick with the 22nd then.
Ms.
As
Darling?
somebody who loves pretty colors, can we please have posters made for the schools so that students actually might see them?
Oh, I don't know.
No.
I was going to say, the emails aren't aren't going to do it. We can't keep the same form of communication and then wonder why our communications aren't going through. At some point, we have to change something. Maybe now is not the time, maybe that's not the way, but we do have to think about a change in order to actually reach people.
Well, I think that might be a discussion to have with Dr. McKinney, because we can't instruct people who aren't Dr. McKinney, about can it be read on morning announcements in the schools? Can it, I don't know, is there E-block, groups? Mr. Rogers knows what goes
Not
on.
allowed to do e-blocks right now.
I think, were you asking like to speak to McKinney, like if it's allowed to have us put that information there? Or?
No,
does that-
so I can't, the board can't just call up each individual principal and be like, hey, can we have posters in your school? We have to talk to Dr. McKinney about it.
Okay. Yeah, but they're like online, like the Google Classrooms. I know for like North and probably South, they have them for like each class, and it's directly for the kids.
Elm Street 2 has it.
We can just direct Dr. McKinney to get the information out. I don't think we have time to recreate the wheel right now.
Right. Okay.
And it has to be equal. Like, one school can't make an announcement over the intercom in the morning and one sends it out as an email to the parents. It has to be consistent.
Okay, so before we go further, I would like to ask us to vote on the motion to send out a communication, and then we can.
Yeah, Ms. Brown has something to say.
I actually have a question about the communication. Do you think it is necessary or appropriate to include some of the concepts we are already talking about, like to whether name the building or the space, or is that not necessary?
Because for naming the individual spaces inside is another set of tasks that we have to do. I feel like it's really going to muck up the water, so let's just keep it straight, and then if this way of communication works, maybe it's something we can build off of for the future when we're looking at that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you can name the inside and the fields much later. Like they did the Belanger Gym on the South School, they did it after it was built.
Right. Ms.
I
Brown?
think she was talking more about
Yeah, go ahead.
more about the concept of the idea versus the actual choosing of the idea. The idea of doing like the very generic neutral name for the main building with the knowledge that down the road facilities within the facility will be after prominent people or any other set of,
I think it's still too much like voting.
all right. I don't understand how. I'm sorry.
I think we're sending out a survey about naming the school, and we'll just send that out. Do you have an opinion on what the school should be named and why? And if they say, I want to do this, and this is why, then you have your answer. It's not, if this is picked, would you rather it be the name or a school facility? I think it's just, we're naming a school, we're not coming up with everything else right now. So if we just leave it open-ended, submit why you want this name, then we can figure things out from there.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, so on Ms. Raymond's motion, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Okay, great.
Ms. Brown?
I actually have a question, if I could ask Armani. Do you have an opinion on that? Or are you still thinking, like, what would you think about having more opportunities to name more spaces, kind of celebrate more individuals? Do you have thoughts on that?
I think we can definitely incorporate like a lot more people's creativity with choosing people when we like name areas to people rather than the entire school. I think like just sticking to a location, like what is it, Cherrywood?
Buck Meadow, Cherrywood, Coldbrook, Maplewood, Elm, I don't know, well, Elm is, you know what but, yeah. But does
That's my
do you
personal
find that,
opinion.
do you find that appealing?
Um,
That method, I mean, not the names exactly, but that kind of concept?
yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Just a couple things. If you're going to start naming the inside facilities in the new school and everything, you don't want to alienate Pennachuck and Fairgrounds if they don't have anything named after somebody. So you ought to be equitable across
Right.
that kind of
Thankfully, Nashua has so many prominent people that come from here. I was doing a Google search, and we could easily name every facility that we have in all of our schools after prominent people that have come from here.
By the way, Dr. Chris was not the only school named after someone. I went to James B. Crowley, which is named after the mayor,
Yeah, I agree.
now the Adult
I'm good.
Learning Center.
I think that's got some real potential, so thanks for the inspiration, kids. Do you have any, just to weigh in on any other thoughts? Did you come tonight with any ideas?
I had a couple, but I think like after this conversation, like they're all better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure they were very great.
Sorry.
So I think that concludes our work for tonight, right? Lisa's going to send out her survey. I'm sorry, Ms. Gingras. I hate to be disrespectful in public. I don't mean it that way. I just think of her. So Ms. Gingras will send out her survey, and then we will have Ms. Bishop and Dr. McKinney work on the communication with specificity about who it's going to go to so that things like the website aren't overlooked. And then we just need to pick another date to meet, right?
We decided before the JSSBC meeting. I'll have Tara look at it.
Okay.
Did you say the 24th is the date on the thing? Could
We
have
said the
it?
22nd.
The 22nd, so we were going to meet on the 23rd.
Okay.
Okay. But we can't have this room at 6 because someone has this room at 6 already.
So at that point, so I will say, if we're using less public comment, but more of, we're trying to do a really broad scope of communicating with the community so they can submit their thoughts in writing. At that point, we could do an earlier meeting if you guys are comfortable with it.
Yeah.
Earlier than 5?
It's up to the committee.
Well, yeah, I'd have to look at my schedule. I mean, you guys can meet without me. I'm the only one that works, so you guys, I don't need to be here. You guys can meet whenever.
Yeah, I think we should probably check with Tara.
All right, so to be determined time on the 23rd, and if for some reason that won't work, the 24th?
The 24th is a Friday.
Still a business
We
day.
still got to do it before the 27th, right?
Yeah.
Right, but if we met on Friday, there might not be enough time to get the minutes.
We could meet in central office at 9, though.
Oh, I see what you're saying, during the day.
We could do, she said the 20, I'm sorry, the numbers are kind of getting, 20, I'm going to write it down. The 22nd, if we had it by 5 PM, the 22nd, we could, it might be a lot of stuff to comb through. Never mind, I'm going to
Yeah.
scratch that.
But yes, you're right, or Friday during the day.
All right, so tentatively the 23rd.
Yeah.
Submissions by the 22nd. Thank you, guys.
Okay. Can I make a motion to adjourn?
Sure.
All
I'll
right.
second that.
I'll vote yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
I'm a yes.
Oh, yes. All right.
Okay.
Meeting is adjourned at 7:02.